Hello, my name is Joseph Carlson, and this is episode 218 of Gaming with Grief, and I'm calling this episode The Grief of AI. But I want to remind everybody to subscribe to the podcast in either Apple iTunes, or Google Play Store, or Spotify. You can go to my website, www.gamingwithgrief.com, Monday morning at 7 a.m., and listen to the SoundCloud version of the episode. You can stream it and download it there. You can also watch the YouTube version if you like the video, except for this intro is going to be the only video. After this, it's going to be audio only. I'm trying out some new setups, equipment, stuff like that, and I just wanted to deal with the audio. So I know I'm a very, 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 very dumb old man. But it's going to be audio after this, but I want to just remind people to like, subscribe. It's also on Spotify, so if you want to watch the video on Spotify, that'll go up Monday evening. So go to those places, subscribe to the podcast on your favorite podcast service, like, click, subscribe, all that kind of stuff. And, when we get to after this, it'll just be audio only, just a reminder. And, let's get to the show. Hey.
Hello.
How you doing?
Good.
It's been a good couple of minutes.
It's been 5 minutes.
Right, you sitting there. No, today I wanted to talk about... there was a couple of articles that came out a while ago that have kind of been buzzing in my brain. I don't think I've really talked about them. And I wanted to talk to you about them because I think they are
I'm honored that you would feel that way.
Yeah, Sorry. The first one, it came out a long time ago, actually. Kotaku wrote about this. It's came out on February 9, 2020. And it's called Mother Reunited with Deceased Daughter in VR Show. Yep.
Mm-hmm.
So there was a Korean... Actually, I'll just read this. So last week, a Korean TV special called Meeting You aired, which focused on a mother's loss of their 7-year-old daughter. And in an unsettling finale, the program attempted to reunite the girl with her mother using virtual reality recreation, complete with audio. There's a video of it. I didn't watch the video. The writer of this basically says, I would imagine it would be good, but I can't say for sure. I can't say that it's exploitative because apparently some people worked with her to come up with their daughter's audio and stuff like that and pictures to recreate her. It also brought up an article that they're actually doing this in like a testing thing. There was in another article that reported on this, they had a hyperlink to a study that was using VR to help people with grief. There's something that it was episode 157, I believe I did, called Complicated Grief, where the New York Times talked about people suffering from grief from a long time. But that brought in the moral thing of like, well, how long is too long if you're talking about loved ones? Mm-hmm. At least it's in the DHS, the handbook for health service, whatever, the Gray's diagnosis, whatever. I don't know. It just made me feel very conflicted when I heard that, you're going to recreate somebody that's dead. Because I think all I did is just listen to my parents' audio like a phone call or something.
Yeah, I feel like people are just furthering putting themselves in pain. That's what I feel like. Yeah, because what happens if the technology goes down? Right. What would the person think? The person that's deceased, be like, why are you... Well, I get it, but at the same time, you're kind of just... I don't know. You're just kind of dragging your misery out in a way.
Yeah, I mean, I listen to audio from my parents. Though,
I get it.
Where I was wanted to hear like my dad's voice or my mom's voice one more time, and I did that.
Yeah, I could see doing that, but going further,
like with VR, you don't think that's?
I mean, I guess maybe like first, like a session or whatever.
Maybe
one
session
is.
Yeah.
But then after that, if you just keep obsessing over it, maybe you do it multiple times a day.
The one thing that I didn't see in all this was like a follow-up, because everybody said, oh, I wonder if it helped her. But I did try to do a web search and see if anybody interviewed her, and it doesn't look like anybody did a follow-up of like, hey, it's been 3 years or 2.5 years, do you feel better about the whole thing, or was it?
I mean, if she has an obsessive personality, then that could be a problem.
Yeah, I mean, just to follow up to see how she was feeling about it, you know?
Oh, yeah.
Because, yeah, that's like...
I mean, I'd love to hear loved ones' voices again, you know, which, like you said, if you were to hear a voicemail, you know, which I'm sure I would do.
Mm-hmm.
But I would probably, you know, if I give the VR session maybe a go, but I wouldn't do it constantly because you're just reminded all the time that they're gone.
Yeah, I think it would be too much. Maybe.
Yeah, it just sounds really heavy-handed.
I've only done it a handful of times where I've like listened to my parents' voice.
Oh yeah, yeah.
And then I was like, okay, but I guess VR is better than a picture, though. I mean,
it is better than a picture. I feel like it makes me sad.
Or yeah, to continue that's
just to continue.
Yeah, I think that's one of the reasons they brought up that complicated grief. They call it complicated grief. Mm-hmm. My thing when I remember when I reviewed that New York Times article that reviewed the study, the idea is how long is too much? Is it detrimental to?
It could be.
But then a lot of people said, yeah, like how do you forget? Like you don't forget people in your life and stuff. So like, how do you move on? Like, I thought it was all really good questions. The other article I was going to talk about, which I read years ago because it came out years and years ago, was this is from Wired magazine. I was skimming through it. It's called "A Son's Race to Give His Dying Father Artificial Immortality." Basically, his father was diagnosed, I believe, with stage 4 lung cancer. This came out on July 18th, 2017. His dad was diagnosed with lung cancer, and he sat down and interviewed him to like get like an actual recording of his father's life, like to get the whole story. And his dad, before he got really sick, participated in these interviews. And then as the article goes on, he feeds that stuff into a chat bot so his father can text him, or an AI version of his father can text him. And it is kind of eerie, but he even says while he's going through it that he knows as a journalist this is kind of strange and different, but at the same time, he wanted, you know, he misses his dad because it's like, I read this before, but like his dad did pass away, and this was like his tribute to him in a way of like, and so his dad can still text him. Again, that was written so long ago, I don't know if anybody followed up with him, you know, because it's been several years for him to say, do you still do this? Do you still... You know,
I'd be curious.
Hit up your chat GPT and say,
yeah,
you know, do you still talk to your dad, as it were? Yeah, I mean, I know in real life when I would get random texts from my mom and dad, it felt pretty good. My dad wouldn't text. My mom was the one who texts. And she's like, hope you're having a great day. I was like, yeah. So I could get where that would be too. But like, it is weird now that you can just recreate.
Yeah, and I feel like... I would know that's not them. So even if I got the text, I would know that
that's true.
It's just me talking to myself.
Yeah.
You know what I'm saying?
Like,
you know, if I were to text, I love you, you know, and you're like, okay, well, that's really not my parent. That's just me telling myself that.
Right. Especially when AI is involved and you're feeding information to them.
It's like some sort of therapy or something to make you feel good, you know?
Right.
Which I understand.
But wouldn't be real, like you said.
Yeah, it wouldn't be real.
Mm-hmm. Yeah,
I mean, if something happened to me, you know, would you do a VR?
No.
Why?
You
know what I mean? That's the question.
Yeah, I mean, that's one of the reasons I wish they would have followed up. I mean, I remember when I first read this, you know, both these articles, I think I read the mom one right around the time. I mean, it was after my dad passed away, but I was like, what? That's disgusting. But you know, now that it's been some years, I'm kind of like, I kind of see.
I mean, I'm not going to lie. I'd like to talk to Ben again.
Oh, yeah. Yeah, it is.
But
Benny.
I would know it's not Ben.
Yeah.
And I mean, I don't know. I'm curious.
I think that was the crux of that movie AI with Haley Joel Osment. And because remember he brought his mom back for one night, but he kind of knew it wasn't his mom. And
yeah, that's the thing. Like,
you would know like this isn't real. Like there'd be a part of your brain saying this is all fake.
Unless there's some people out there, I'm sure, that just turn that part of their brain off. And then just completely fall into the...
That study was very long that I skimmed this morning, but I think they were trying to get into that. But one thing I think was interesting is it appeared that if I read it correctly, there's a lot of asides of here's the method we used. I think they use a cognitive therapist that has worked in VR to administer the test. And they said in the beginning it was just somebody who had lost family or something. And so they were going forward with that. So at least there's studies, I guess. I really wish there was a way, not a way, but I really wish they would have been followed up on to be hey, it's been a couple of years. Has your thoughts changed now that you're using this technology? Because I think you're right. At the end of the day, I would know it was fake. Mm-hmm. And I would know what I was doing was feeding into the machine. The machine wouldn't be doing it for me. It wouldn't care.
Because you know that you're not talking to me. You're just talking to your computer.
Not at all. So, yeah. It
wouldn't be me saying I love you. It would just be a robot.
Yeah, which would be bad. I don't know.
But I don't know. Would you give it a whirl the first time?
Yeah, I think that's some of it. I think there's
I probably would.
I think there's movies out there that deal with this a bit one more time type thing of... Yeah. But then I maybe do it once and then not and not ever do it again. Because even if you could call them, you would know it wasn't really real. He has his dad's voice in that Wired article, So it's just a chat bot at this point. But I skimmed that. I read it years ago. I'm trying to think. I don't think he got a phone call from him because that would be really weird. But they've started to do that in movies. They did it with Mark Hamill in The Mandalorian. They made him young.
Yeah.
And they use his voice. And apparently, also in Star Wars, James Earl Jones, who does Darth Vader, passed away, a couple years ago? Year ago? And they basically got his family, they agreed with his family to use his voice for Darth Vader for other projects, even after he's passed away. So they can use AI to recreate Darth Vader in movies and stuff, which is strange.
It's very strange and disconcerting.
I even heard a political ad with Trump's voice, and it wasn't him; it was AI, and Trump was attacking a governor of a state or something. So this is really. It's kind of
wow.
How are we going to be able to distinguish in a couple of years?
How do you know it's the person?
Right. The one thing I read about AI that seems to happen lately is the people that have really invested in AI says AI isn't creative enough yet. It has to use information that's available to them right now. So it has to scan human creations to come up with something. If it tries to steal from itself, it becomes worse. Or, it's easier to spot. There's more mistakes, more grammatical errors, stuff like that.
Well, we're not far off. I'm
sure.
Maybe
a couple of years will be to the point where you won't even be able to tell. Mm-hmm. So you're totally not against, but
I'm not against.
You just wouldn't do it.
I think that you're just prolonging the misery.
Yeah, you're probably right. I
don't know. I don't know. It would be hard to. I gotta admit, be hard if you're really having a hard time. It would be hard not to put that VR headset down.
Yeah,
I get that.
Especially since grief comes in waves, and if you're having a bad day, and you're well, maybe I could spend an hour.
Well, and then you end up spending hours and hours.
More time.
Which, again, I get. But it's you're on that slippery slope.
Yeah, when I read these, I was very judgmental, and then as time goes on, I'm like, oh, I get it. I gotta get the, yeah.
Yeah.
So.
Mm-hmm. It just depends how deep into where your grief is just individual.
Yeah, I guess, a breaking case of glass.
Day to day.
I suppose, yeah, if it's really bad. Mm-hmm. I would like to read, I think that study I read too said that it was a, the first of its kind type exploratory study. So maybe based on that study, there'll be more studies and they realize, this really doesn't help, or it may help, or, I guess. But next week, we're going to actually talk about something fun.
Yeah.
That is not, we pre-ordered the Remnant 2 game.
We sure did.
So we're going to play that together, and we'll talk to you guys about that next week. I think that's it. If you like the podcast, please like or subscribe on either YouTube, where it hits Monday morning at 7 a.m., or go to the website, www.gameofgrief.com. Again, Monday morning at 7 a.m. You can find a link for the SoundCloud podcast there, and you can write to me at gwgpodfellows@gmail.com. The video version will hit Spotify Monday evening, but the audio hits probably tonight sometime. I'm trying to think what else. I mean, I'm all on a lot of places. I always list them out, but just try to look for Gaming with Grief with Joseph Carlson. You can find it there. And yeah, thanks for doing this, babe.
Of course. This is fun.
Yeah, you like it. Yeah, audio. But yeah, we'll do Remnant 2 next week because it'll be fun. And there was something that is on the tip of my tongue that is another fun thing I want to talk about with you. But, that's what it was a long time ago. I know you don't like anime or that much. And I wanted to watch Cowboy Bebop with you because I think it's a good anime. And I thought we'd just watch episode 1. That's all. And so you and I can review episode 1 of Cowboy Bebop. And we can talk about Remnant 2 from the Ashes.
Okay.
And then if you want to watch more Cowboy Bebop, I'm totally up for that because you bought me the really cool Blu-rays because I've only seen it in really bad transfer where it's 4:3 and all squished.
Oof.
And I think this got restored, the thing that you bought me. So I want to watch it. It's a short season. It's like 20 some odd episodes. It's not like a long,
Yeah.
And we'll talk about Ben because Ben and I used to get in fights about it. So everybody, thank you for listening. And
Thank you.
we'll talk to you everybody again next week.
Bye-bye.